Welcome back to the Flying with the Flock podcast, the best place to get all of your Eagles and other NFL related news. I'm your host, Matt. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of special announcements this week, whether it's the tush push or brotherly shove not being banned, to the NFL allowing NFL players to play in the Olympics, and so on and so forth. But before we get into all that stuff, all the news that has come out of the NFL this past week, I would just like to ask you guys to leave a like and subscribe down below. That would be much appreciated if you're watching this. To show your support, it would be, obviously much appreciated during this dry time in the NFL season where I'm still trying to pump out some form of content for you guys. But yeah, I'm not going to harp on that too much. So let's just jump right into it this week. Before we get too deep into any football, there was still a tragedy that happened in the football world this past Wednesday. Colts owner Jim Irsay unfortunately passed away Wednesday morning. Looking at some of the stuff that Irsay has done for the entire Colts organization, you can see how much of an impact it's going to be on the city of Indianapolis and arguably on the NFL, depending on how you look at his time during an owner. Irsay inherited the Colts franchise from his father, Robert Irsay, who had been with the owner of the Colts since 1972, when the franchise was still located in Baltimore. Obviously, that was during the famous scandal, which the Colts up and left in the middle of the night and then relocated to Indianapolis for a new stadium. Irsay brought in the most recognizable era of Colts. Besides, obviously, you have the Johnny Unitas era, but nobody really remembers that time. Nobody could really sit down and tell you, oh, they did this, oh, they did that. But looking at some of the people that he brought under the Colts banner during this time, he brought in players like Peyton Manning, players like Andrew Luck, coaches like Tony Dungy and Chuck Pagano, respectively. Everybody knows how influential Peyton Manning has been on football during his time playing and during his time after his retirement. Obviously, he didn't play his entire career with the Colts, but I will say I do see Peyton Manning more as a Colt than I ever will probably a Bronco. And obviously, Andrew Luck, unfortunately, his career was cut short, but still, he was a fairly influential figure during his time in the NFL and as a quarterback. Still one of the better Colts quarterbacks. If he had a more lengthy career, I wouldn't be surprised if he held some of the passing records, maybe passing yards, passing touchdowns. Arguably, could have also held rushing touchdowns for a quarterback under the Colts. But again, that's always going to be left up to speculation because of how he cut his career short due to injury. And obviously, Tony Dungy, Chuck Pagano. Tony Dungy, iconic under the Colts, especially with Peyton Manning. Obviously, he's gone on and he did a lot of broadcasting stuff. He's still doing broadcasting, I believe, with the CBS team that covers the NFL. And it's been fun to watch his insight in the world of football through that. And Chuck Pagano as well, who has also started taking back up coaching, or more, I guess, advisement. He's a senior advisor to the secondary of the Baltimore Ravens. But as a whole, Jim Irsay was able to facilitate this era of not legendary, but still highly touted head coaches, and arguably legendary quarterbacks. Definitely one is obviously Peyton Manning, Hall of Famer, obviously. Andrew Luck probably won't get there, but still both were quite influential for their time on the position of the quarterback. Finally, Irsay eventually started to take more of a leadership role among the other NFL owners, alongside owners like Jerry Jones and Robert Kraft, both of which obviously, one, Jerry Jones, owner of the Cowgirls, and two, Robert Kraft, owner of the Patriots, both two of the more influential franchises when it comes to how people perceives them and how the NFL, or how people perceive the NFL as well. He did step up during the early 2010s and became one of these more leaders in the ownership world, which allowed him to kind of spearhead a lot of different changes in the NFL to make it somewhat safer for NFL players as well. Although his time as an owner did have some bumps in the road, he was still able to bring the franchise to 2 Super Bowl appearances and 1 Super Bowl win, and a plethora of playoff appearances with different quarterbacks, different head coaches, different all-around players, different GMs as well. And although the last few years of the Colts have not really been up to snuff to where we hoped they would be, going forward, I believe that the Colts probably, based off of how Irsay was willing to change the culture, especially after all the stuff that was coming out last season, I do believe that Irsay will forever be cemented as the best owner in Colts franchise history. Okay, now with that out of the way, we're going to move on to some more of the football kind of stuff. Looking at it, so after Brock Purdy and George Kittle got their own deals with the 49ers, the team locked down the franchise middle linebacker Fred Warner with a $63 million deal, with $56.7 million of that being guaranteed money. The Niners continue to lock down their franchise cornerstones, but are losing a lot of space to fit in new talent through the free agent market. So they're going to have to continue to build through the draft, because they're not going to have the money to pay up these big-name guys on the free agent market as a whole to fill in some of the holes that they have. This comes off of the back of losing even more talent across the team, but mainly on the defense, especially certain positions like defensive tackle, corner, and strong safety all lost big-name players, that being Javon Hargrave, that being Charvarius Ward, and that being Tawela Ofunga as well. They also lost their middle linebacker too, and Dre Greenlaw as well, but still, overall, this reaffirms my belief that the Niners' Super Bowl window could very much come to a close after this season, making it important that they make a move now to shore up another appearance in the Super Bowl, similar to what they did with bringing in Christian McCaffrey. They have to bring in a cheap star, hope that it pans out, and then make a push. Do I believe Brock Purdy can elevate the play, like I was talking about last week? Do I believe that Brock Purdy can elevate the play of all his teammates around him? No, I do not believe that. But ultimately, this is going to have to be the year that Brock Purdy proves me wrong, and I do hope that he proves me wrong for the sake of, hey, this is the NFL. Parity does exist, and not one team is going to be dominant forever. So I don't want to see the 49ers be competitive, but at the same time, for the sake of the NFL, it wouldn't be a horrible thing for the 49ers to be competitive on the same level of like the Lions, which is a step below the Eagles in the NFC, but still a fairly competitive team. Alright, so that's the Fred Warner news that just came out, I think, last Sunday. So, yeah, that couldn't have waited I wish they came out with that a little bit earlier so I could have gotten that on last week's podcast and done a bigger segment on the 49ers. But whatever. So the big news to me is the brotherly shove, or the tush push, depending on what you want to call it, lives on, apparently. The NFL owners failed to approve the vote to ban the brotherly shove on Wednesday morning. The Packers needed 24 owners to agree with them, and they were only able to secure 22, making the vote 22-10. Now, where have I heard that score before? Obviously, I'm making a reference to the Eagles-Packers wildcard game. But taking a look at some of the teams that did not, or that voted in favor of keeping the brotherly shove. That would be the Eagles, obviously. You have the Ravens, Patriots, Lions, Jaguars, Jets, Titans, Dolphins, Saints, and Browns. These teams are the teams who obviously voted in favor of playing the game, and it's not entirely surprising if you look at some of the head coaches that are on some of these teams. You have John Harbaugh, you have Mike Vrabel, you have Dan Campbell, and you have Aaron Glenn. The common trope between those four that I just mentioned, and maybe you can throw in Mike McDaniels down in Miami, but let's keep to these four guys. These four guys are like football guys. Like, these guys are smash mouth football kind of style guys that wants to keep the intensity and the physicality in the game. They have said that in the past, and they will continue to say that going forward. Just keep in mind that 3 out of the 4 of these mentioned head coaches, that being Dan Campbell, Mike Vrabel, and Aaron Glenn, played football in the NFL at some point. Obviously, Mike Vrabel, we all know, has more of a football intense personality. Dan Campbell is a football-loving guy. Aaron Glenn seems to be a more laid-back but still chill football guy that wants to keep football. And John Harbaugh will forever be just a successful guy that loves the game of football. I forget, he might have played back in college, but I don't believe he played at the NFL level. I'm surprised that we didn't see teams like the Colts and the Cardinals vote to keep it. Obviously, that's because Shane Steichen was one of the, I believe, helped create this play. Now head coach of the Colts, though the problem could have been we probably could have gotten the Colts, but unfortunately it was the same morning that their owner, Jim Irsay, passed away. So I wouldn't be surprised if that played some form of a factor when it came to the Colts not knowing what to do, so just voting in favor of banning it. I'm not sure whether Jim Irsay would have went one way or the other, but that's just my theory as of right now. Obviously, Jonathan Gannon, head coach of the Cardinals, ex-defensive coordinator of the Eagles, and Giant Snake. I forget whether we play the Cardinals. I don't think we play the Cardinals this year. Hold on. Eagles. I don't believe we played the Cardinals at any point. No, we don't. Not this year. I believe next year they're on like our future opponents list, but yeah, looking at it, unfortunately we won't be able to go after these two. And also, let's just say that the Saints voted in favor of keeping it as well, showing that Kellen Moore has some form of loyalty to Nick Sirianni. Probably this might be the one favor that Kellen Moore gives to Nick Sirianni in order to keep the play around, because he also called it the most as well. So he arguably called it more than Shane Steichen did. So, Kellen Moore, thank you again for obviously the Super Bowl and now helping convince the Saints ownership to keep the play in the game. let's see here. Jeffrey Lurie and Jason Kelsey both made speeches during the NFL owners meeting, and to turn the tide in favor of keeping the play, which may have actually worked because coming into Wednesday morning, it was heavily rumored that the play would be banned, with banned due to a lot of the teams flipping over to the side of the Packers. But that ended up surprising the entire league that the play was still sticking around at least for another year, which I'll get into in a second. The Eagles' social media team did an amazing job trolling the NFL with the releasing of a 23-minute highlight reel of the Eagles running the play over the last few seasons, releasing a T-shirt with "Push On" being the words labeled on it, and finally their first post across all platforms announcing that the play was staying was a similar "Push On" label, but above the play of the brotherly shove from the defense's perspective, and they just so happened to use a picture of the team doing it against the Packers. So, yeah, the Eagles really did a good job in trolling the rest of the NFL that they were able to keep their play. So, why do I think that even though we still passed this year with the brotherly shove, why do I still think its years are numbered? Unfortunately, I do believe it wasn't the Packers as a team and as ownership that was trying to get rid of it. Now, remember, the Packers are a team that many different people can buy ownership stakes in the team, which it's a public team, which you don't see around the NFL. That also led to, I believe, the Packers' main owner stepping down. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, so the team's president and CEO since 2008, Mark Murphy, will reach the mandatory retirement age of 70 this July. So there's kind of a power vacuum in the Packers organization, leading to what I believe is the true culprit behind the idea of getting this play banned. I believe Roger Goodell and the NFL as a whole manipulated the Packers due to the situation and the power vacuum that's currently going on in order to do their bidding and propose a ban. The NFL doesn't want to seem like they want to ban a single play because one team can do it better than the rest. Rather, let's have a team that's going to go through a power struggle here without a president, and obviously they don't have a traditional owner stepping out, and this would allow the NFL to use the Packers as their vessel to try to get this play banned, because Roger Goodell has been on the record saying that he does not like the play because he's scared that somebody's going to get hurt, yet it's more safe than a regular QB sneak by percentage. Again, they also probably manipulated a lot of the different, like the NFLPA, they probably manipulated them. The NFL, like safety, Player Safety Association, and there's like one more association that's underneath the NFL umbrella that Roger Goodell probably manipulated. They all voted and they all said, oh yeah, we should probably get rid of this play because it's unsafe for the players. And yet, for the first time in the NFL history, arguably, if once all these groups came together, the proposal still did not pass. So it's an interesting idea. I do believe that this is truly what happened behind closed doors. Because if Mark Murphy proposed it, yeah, but he's stepping out, he's not going to take any of the heat. So he's willing to do it if the NFL pushes him a little bit of money to probably ban the play or propose to ban the play. So I'm not surprised that the NFL is probably going to try to do this again in the future. Maybe not next offseason, because I know the rumor is right now is a lot of the owners are tired about talking about the brotherly shove at this point, especially with how much media attention it's been getting. But I wouldn't be surprised if 2-3 years down the line we see another situation where this comes up again and the Eagles have to battle off all the rest of the teams once again. Alright, next up, the NFL passed a new rule allowing one player from each team to play in the 2028 LA Olympics for the brand new flag football team. Although I like the idea of let me rephrase. Although I do not like the idea of one of the Eagles going and taking time away from training camp, it would still be cool to see one of them come away with a gold medal. So I'm very torn about this. Obviously, we still have a couple of years, and I'll give my final feelings about that when we're approaching it, that off season approaching it, which we still got. We still got like 3 more years until that. But as of right now, I don't feel entirely comfortable with Eagles players taking time away from the team because it cuts into training camp, which is fairly important for getting the team together. I don't feel 100% comfortable with Eagles players stepping away from the team to play in the Olympics. So that's just my feeling right now. Obviously, injury concern is there, but it's not that huge because it's only flag football. So we'll just have to wait and see. I know the NFL likes to pump out Jalen Hurts and that flag football commercial with the 2028 Olympics, but as a whole, I'm not totally thrilled, but at the same time, it's all right, I guess. All right, so lastly, we're going to be looking at some of our division rivals' schedules, seeing how easy they look. I might go over the more important games, maybe not every single game, but we're just going to have to wait and see here. So, looking at it, let's go to the team that placed second in the division last year and that the Eagles completely beat the absolute, crap out of during the NFC Championship game. That being the Washington Commanders. Looking at it, Week 1, easy. They start out with the Giants. Week 2, at Green Bay, that could be a little bit tricky. Week 3, home against the Raiders, at Atlanta, at LA. That should be an easy game in theory, unless the Chargers really elevate their game as a whole. Home against Chicago. I actually can't wait for that game again, because similar to last season, it's week 6 like last season. And it's in Washington. So I would love to see what happens. I could see them losing to Chicago, but it's more of a wait-and-see kind of thing. So let's keep moving forward. Next, they're at Dallas. That could be difficult. Then they're at Kansas City, home against Seattle, home against Detroit, and then they're in Madrid against the Dolphins. So this is a really rough stretch for the Commanders here. From Week 7 all the way to Week 11, they have Dallas, Kansas City, Seattle, Detroit, Miami. I believe 4 out of the 5 will be vying for a playoff spot. Obviously, Miami being the one oddball out in that situation. Obviously, it's always hard to play a division rival, Dallas. Kansas City, as long as you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, and I can't even make the argument for Travis Kelce anymore, but as long as they have those 2 core pieces, they're going to continue to be competitive no matter who they face. Week 9, home against Seattle. They should be making a playoff run this season under Sam Darnold, so I would like to see how this game goes, though I could see the Commanders winning it. Home against Detroit is going to be tough. Detroit is going to be another good team again this year, looking for revenge on what the Commanders did to them during the divisional round. So I wouldn't be surprised if Detroit tries to find a way to win during this game. And then Week 11, they have to go to the first ever Madrid game against Miami. They can win the game. The problem for me is just going to Madrid and having to deal with all the craziness that comes with being in a different country to play a game. Week 12, after the Madrid game, they have their bye week. Honestly, smart. Thank God. As much as I don't like the Commanders, no team should go to like London and then have to come back and play London or Brazil or Madrid, obviously in this example, and have to come back and play a normal game the following week. Then they're against Denver, home against Denver, but that's still going to be a difficult game. They're in Minnesota. That I got to see what happens in Minnesota, so I feel like the Commies could pull that one out. Obviously, in New York against the Giants, that's an easy game. Then this is another difficult stretch. They go against 3 divisional opponents here. Well, technically 2 in 3 games. We have the Eagles. They're home against the Eagles in Week 16. They're home against Dallas in Week 17. And they're at Philadelphia in Week 18. Now, we're not sure how everything's going to play out, but this week could be fairly important for the entire division as a whole to figure out who's going to take it home, whether it's the Eagles, whether it's Dallas, or whether it's going to be the Commanders. So this stretch of these 3 games, Week 16, 17, 18, are fairly important for all 3 teams involved. Okay, so let's go over the Cowgirls schedule real quick. And also, let me say, as I was looking for like ways to find a good like picture to help me line it up perfect for me just to see, it was a struggle to find a Commanders or Giants one, but the Cowgirls knew how to do it right. They gave me a solid picture. So hats off to you, I guess, Dallas, though you guys suck. They open up the NFL. They're the NFL kickoff against the Eagles during Week 1. They can definitely lose that in Philly. And then they're home against the Giants. They can easily win that. I could see them winning against Chicago in Chicago, though it depends on how Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson are meshing up to this point. So, very dependent. Green Bay, they're home against Green Bay. That could definitely be a loss. I could see that happening real easy as a loss. Then they're in New York for the Jets. Then they're in Carolina for the Panthers. Then they're home against the Commanders. That could be an easy... Oh, yeah, the last 2 could be 2 easy wins, depending on how those other teams are panning out at this point in the season. Then they're home against the Commanders. That could be a loss. They're in Denver. That could easily be a loss, depending on how that defense is panning out. They're home against the Cardinals. Kyler Murray is notorious for playing the best football he can when he's in Dallas, so I have a weird feeling that might be another loss. Just a weird gut feeling. And then they have their bye week, Week 10. Then they're in Las Vegas. That could be a win, easy there. Then they're in Dallas against the Eagles. That could go either way. Depends on how the season's panning out for both teams. So I'm going to give the Eagles a win, but I could see this game going either way. Then they're home against Kansas City. That's definitely going to be a loss. Then they're in Detroit. That's going to be a loss. Then they're going to be home against the Vikings, home against the Chargers. Both of those could be wins. Then they're in Washington for the Commanders, and then they're at New York for the Giants. So, depending on how these teams are doing, this stretch is going to be hard right here. Eagles, Chiefs, Lions. That stretch is automatically hard. But depending on how these other teams are doing, this stretch could be brutal. You have Eagles, Chiefs, Lions, Vikings, if they're doing good, could be a good playoff contending team. Chargers, same thing. If they're playing up to their potential, could be a hard game for the Cowgirls to deal with. And then Washington. So Philly, Kansas City, Detroit, Minnesota, Chargers, and Washington. If 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if these 6 teams play up to their potential, these playoff potentials, this could be I could realistically see the Cowboys go 0-6. Maybe like 2-4 if they squeeze a couple games out. But this would be a really rough stretch, and this could push the Cowgirls out of the playoff picture at this point if they can't find some solid footing throughout this stretch. So there's some easy games early on, but it's the last stretch when the Cowgirls are going to have to really lock in and try to make a push for the playoffs. Okay, lastly, we're going to go over the Giants' schedule. They have arguably the hardest schedule based off of the records of the teams that they were playing from last season. So looking at it, they have Week 1, Commanders. That's going to be a loss. Week 2, Cowboys. That's going to be a loss. Both of them are at the locations. Then they're home against the Chiefs. That's going to be a loss. Then they're home against the Chargers. That could be a loss. Then they're in New Orleans. That could be a win. I don't think the Saints are going to be that good. So they could start their season out 1-5. And then they're home against the Eagles. That's going to be a loss. Then they're away in Denver. That's a loss. Then they're away in Philly. That's a loss. Then they're home against the 49ers. That's going to be a loss. Bears, it depends on how things are panning out for them. But if things go right, the Bears could easily beat them in Chicago. Then they're home against the Packers, at Detroit, and then home against the Patriots. I feel like the Patriots may take a step forward under Mike Vrabel, so I wouldn't be surprised if they lose that. So entering their bye week, they could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. They could be 1-12 entering their bye week if everything goes wrong. If everything goes right, maybe 2-11, 2-11, 3-10. If everything goes right. Bye week, they have Commanders, Vikings, Raiders, Cowboys. Still a rough stretch. Commanders, that's definitely going to be a loss. Vikings, if they play up to their potential, that could be a loss. That could be a loss for the Giants. They're in Las Vegas. That could be a win depending on how the team's doing. And then they're home against Dallas. So that last stretch, they could go 0-4 and end up have 1 win or 3 wins. But the Giants are going to have to get lucky for their schedule, and they arguably have the hardest schedule in the NFL, and they're not a good team either. So that's what makes it even scarier for the G-men. They can look at it. Arguably, I feel like, although Commanders' schedule is not easy, they have a lot of playoff potential teams sprinkled throughout. I just feel like this stretch for Dallas is brutal if all these teams are playing up to their playoff potentials. The Eagles, Chiefs, Lions, Vikings, Chargers, Commanders. If these teams are playing to their top standards, I could easily see the Dallas Cowboys going 0-6 during this stretch. So It's definitely going to be a weird season for the NFC East. There's a possibility for the Eagles to repeat, but they're going to have to earn it this year. Not that they didn't earn it last year, but they're going to have to really earn it this year. So, as a whole, everybody kind of has it a little bit hard this season when it comes to the schedule. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see some teams start to live under the potential that we thought they could have, making some of these schedules just a little bit more easy. Alright, so that's going to do it for this episode here of the Flying with the Flock podcast. I hope you guys really enjoyed. Again, if you all could like and subscribe down below, that would be much appreciated. Follow us on Twitter for all of our updates. And besides that, I don't have anything else for you guys today. So, with all that being said, remember, go Birds.